Alright, this is Reflective Practitioner Video Journal number 4, the last one for the class. This one is particularly interesting considering I just did an evaluation and gained a lot of insight into instructional best practices. This week's topic is promoting student engagement. So seeing things and evaluating and analyzing things from a leader perspective, not just from a classroom teacher. I can definitely say that I've come away with, especially this year, being a part of evaluations, observing classroom teachers more, and just pretty much figuring out what works and what doesn't. My main takeaway from observing the teacher I did was just the difference between and the importance of not just teaching content, teaching actual skills. And what does that mean like for kids? Well, for my school, for the population and community I work with, it means explicitly teaching organizational skills. A lot of our kids come into the classroom not only with attitudes and experiences that have been adverse when it comes to education, but they lack the ability to consistently behave like a scholar. Now, when I say behave, I don't mean just disruptive behavior and, behavioral concerns that people typically think of, classroom management issues. I mean actual skills about how to be a student, what being a student looks like, sounds like, feels like, experiencing success and praise. So the teacher I observed, the fact that she had built in and implemented organizational skills is so inspiring and so effective. I just think it's imperative that teachers continue to teach that and reinforce that. If you're not making it explicit, if you are not consistently modeling every single thing you expect a student to be and do, you cannot expect them to know it. I think a big difficulty for students is that teachers expect them by the 6th, 7th, 8th, middle school, high school grades to come in knowing how to be a scholar. And the truth of the matter is that for a lot of our kids, their reality has been much different. They have never been explicitly taught. It has never been reinforced about how to be a student. So it's almost a game of gotcha. So when they do raise their hand out of turn, when they lose papers, when they don't write down the agenda, the deadlines and assignments, well, they reap the punishments for it. But as educators, we have to constantly show them how to be, how to act, how to perform as scholars. So in order to engage students, you first have to teach them the skills to show them what is it going to look like to be engaged, to be rewarded for your engagement. I loved the organization skill of keeping every single paper stapled to a notebook. I know some teachers use binders, some teachers use folders. Most parents give kids the tools. In terms of the resources, the actual manipulatives, the actual tangibles, but if you don't have the conceptual skills, if you don't have the experience, then those tools are worthless. If you don't know how to use an Allen wrench and you're given an Allen wrench, you're just going to think, what is this piece of metal? And I feel like that's kind of where a lot of our kids are at. Different modalities have to be considered, different learning styles. So being intentional and using not just the strategies, but differentiation. So many of those skills that are used when we're in elementary school for special education students really does work, period, for every kid. Color coding, using audio, using visuals, giving handouts while at the same time simultaneously explaining things verbally, projecting it on the board so they can see it. Those are all so necessary to remove the barriers that students not only bring with them, that are not only environmental, but that they cause for themselves. I think that's one of the only appropriate times to ever say kids will be kids, is you have to make allowances for the fact that learning is hard, school is difficult, kids don't want to be there. It's up to us to make sure that they not only learn, but grow a love for learning. So instructional strategies I can definitely see working is one, having some form of organizational skills taught through stapling every paper in a notebook. Um, Binders and folders I think work too, but just not as well as this method works, because I've seen kids who have 3-ring binders and 6 tabs for different dividers. It's just too much, and they get lost in the shuffle, and papers get ripped out, things are misplaced. Same thing with folders. Kids just stuff them in the folders. The folders, they're so flimsy they get stuffed in the backpack, and everything ends at the bottom of the backpack. A lot of times done but never turned in. It's such a consistent problem that I just think stapling everything in one place, secured to a notebook, works really well. Secondly, there's got to be variety in the method of delivery for instruction. It cannot just be lecture. You got to be able to rotate. Having the board set up and configuration is required. But if you don't do anything beyond that in terms of being organized and setting a routine and consistent reinforcement for the kids, it's not going to be enough. So having it do now some type of warm-up that's relevant and engaging is crucial. But then beyond that, after the kids do the warm-up, do you lecture for 30 minutes, 50 minutes if it's a block class? If you do, how often are you doing that? Because that's how you lose kids. That's how kids get disinterested. That's how behaviors start to disrupt and erupt into big problems. So I've seen teachers use to great effect rotating stations. It is kind of a higher level instructional tool, but I think it works brilliantly when used correctly and effectively, allowing kids to manage themselves while the teacher works with one group. So the most effective way I've seen it done is by implementing technology, having one station where there's Chromebooks or a class lab, having another section where kids are working collaboratively, and then the teacher rotates to give the direct instruction to small pockets of students, as opposed to trying to engage and maintain a class of 30, 35, 40. I feel this works better. Some teachers call it station rotation. Some teachers call it, I don't know, I'm drawing a blank. I like station rotation. Those are all strategies that work really well. In order to ensure multiple access, that's so key. It's so crucial. You got to have different access points for your kids. So again, falling back to differentiation, what do you do for kids who have known, cognitive, behavioral challenges and disabilities? Do that for all your kids. Use those strategies, like I said. Not relying on one main method of delivery. Have it in a worksheet written out with the instructions. Have it projected on the board. Allow kids to summarize. Ask formative questions to the kids. Hey, repeat back to me my instruction. All right, think, pair, share. Talk it over with the friends. Write down the 3 steps I just mentioned. It seems easy, but it's not. And now my video's at 9 minutes, so again, just a super interesting topic. I'm sure I'll continue to learn. I'm excited to continue to learn.